Okay, today is November 6th, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how change isn't ever going to come to you. Like that's just not something that's ever going to happen. And when I look at my life and when I think about my future, I feel like I have this fallacy of thinking that things are always going to be different in the future and they're always going to be better. And I feel like previously when I was younger, that stays true. Like you go to elementary school, things are different. You spend 5 years there, then you go to middle school, your whole world changes again. Then you go through high school, and then again, a brand new world. And then you go to college, and then your whole environment changes. You don't live with the people, you don't live with your family that you lived with for 18 years anymore. Like life kind of happens at you, and because your environment changes so heavily, I feel like you kind of inevitably change as well. And it's also you're growing up, you're still a kid, and your brain hasn't developed and solidified. But what I've kind of noticed now is that that process of like rapid change slows down. And for me personally, I'm in college right now, and life is going to change again after I leave college. Right now, I'm in this bubble, essentially, this weird society where everybody's young, everybody's carefree. Like it's not the real world. It's a completely different, almost utopia. But things are going to change again. But what I've realized is that as I grow older, I feel like change just does not come to you, does not happen anymore. And the issue is, in my mind, I think it always will. So when I imagine the future, I think, oh, I'm not going to be in this position anymore. I'm going to be financially free in the next 5 years or in the next whatever distant future is long enough for me to not have to act now, but it's still close enough that I can like know I'll be okay and that I'm like my life isn't going to be wasted away, if that makes any sense at all. But it's always for me like, oh, things are going to be different in the future. And I've been saying that, I've been thinking that for 3 years. And I feel like my reality doesn't support those visions that I keep having. Like my freshman year, I thought I was gonna drop out and start my own business by my sophomore year. And then sophomore year rolled around. I still don't have that business that I thought was gonna get me out of here, get me out of university. And sophomore year, I was like, okay, now I'll figure it out. Now I probably won't see my junior year or my senior year of college. I'll have figured it out by then. I'll have figured out financial freedom by then. And then sophomore year flew by, and then now I'm in my junior year thinking the same thing about what's going to happen when I get out of college. So now in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna figure out a business, figure out some way to not have to go work a regular job, not have to go work in the tech industry, even though that is a good industry. But I keep on thinking I'm gonna figure my own way out with very little action to back that up, to give me any actual like logical assumption that most likely I'll be in that position instead. So what I kind of wanted to emphasize is that I I feel like most people will look into the future and just assume that things are going to be different. But unless you go and make that, things will not be different. Change will not come to you. Your life will not change itself. And another interesting thing that I read in some book somewhere, I wish I could cite it, but when a person thinks about their future self, the part of the brain that processes strangers and new people lights up. So they don't even view that as themselves. They view that so distantly apart from themselves that it's a brand new person. And, you know, it's not true. It's still going to be you at the end of the day. So people think that that gap between themselves now and that future self is a lot bigger than what it actually ends up being. So it's difficult to not fall into that fallacy, to not fall into that trap. But you do have to realize that, number one, nobody's going to save you. Number two, things will only be better in the future. Things will only change in the future if you take action now to change those things. So, like, things don't happen on their own, and change is very, very difficult, and it's super uncomfortable. And a lot of people avoid it in the present moment because it is, and because it's hard to see the full time scale of your current actions. So it is a lot easier to just go through the motions of your regular day and not do anything else on top of that, and not have that fire and that sense of urgency to climb out of your position. It's a lot easier to stay the same and think things will be better in the future, or I'll have more money in the future, or I'll have it figured out in the future, in the next 2 years, 5 years. But like, unless you make that happen, it's not going to happen. And unless you make that happen now, unless you take steps right now with a sense of urgency towards that goal, I don't see things happening. And this video is kind of more a reminder for myself as well. For anybody that's interested in watching it too, thank you. But yeah, if you want to create change in your future, you have to take action right now. I have to take action right now. But you have to erase that gap. There's no difference. Like, not there will be no realization, there will be no click at some point that makes you figure things out, that changes you as a person fundamentally. Like, that won't happen. If you want change in the future, you have to be uncomfortable now, and there's not going to be an easy route through it. So I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you for watching. If you do like these videos, leave a like, subscribe, comment. I'll reply to all the comments as well. But thank you. Goodbye.